Hey there, YouTubers. So, regarding the curriculum, School of Tomorrow, and so forth, it's in the refugee camp itself that in some cases you'll be picking up these skills either as staff, either as student, faculty, whatever. It's not like you're necessarily required to already know everything about Jupyter Notebooks before you enroll in the schools that I've been talking about. But nevertheless, it's good to get some kind of preview of what we're talking about. For example, right now I'm just using Markdown to change the size of a font by putting a little bit more of hash marks in front. That makes it bigger or smaller. The more hash marks, the smaller, and so forth. That's easy, nitpicky detail. It's like, do you really need to know things like that? Do I have to memorize things like that? These are questions that, people besides yourself all have. This is typical kind of questions. And I'm not really doing an FAQ right now. I'm just saying I've got some online opportunities to share these skills, but you can pick them up from just about anywhere on YouTube if you're willing to dig and find, you know, sources that stay up to date with the current API. A lot of the problem is there's a moving target aspect to what we're doing here as these tools continue to evolve. You'll see I'm here on LinkedIn sharing my interest in getting the refugee science degree programs going. I can't say that those exist or that, I'm very far along in some of these dimensions. I'm just at the beginning stages of myself learning all the ins and outs. It's not something that I've been um, carefully taught. It's not something that I have original expertise in. My dad was an urban and regional planner, and I've been to refugee camps around the world. I've visited many. It's not that I'm ignorant. I just don't have formal training, but then who does? For those of you worried about iTunes going away, I understand. I've got a Facebook thread started on that. We can talk about what apps, what data apps we need to use besides just these that I've been showing. In terms of collecting data, that's a whole other can of worms, you could say. Like, do you use turnstiles? A lot of theme parks, when they want to track, how many people went on this or that ride and so forth, they have ways of just, getting gross numbers. They don't necessarily track each individual. They don't necessarily know your history. But if we did need to know, for example, that you had done certain tasks and wanted to, compensate you with certain access to certain experiences to further your training, things that are relevant to you, like a search engine, a recommendation engine, but also you've been accumulating the credits necessary to gain access to whatever it is, right? So you've been learning SQLite. That's part of what it takes to manage data in this world, and you don't need to go with an expensive, for-profit company's flagship product right out of the box. You don't necessarily have to make that kind of investment. You can just, go check around and see if you could find something in the open source world that's going to help. So that's what I'm emphasizing as something that we can all use and therefore send things around the world more easily, right? Email attachments, whatever. And I won't be assuming that you have Microsoft Office up to date or other tools that, you would have to buy a license, and otherwise it's called piracy, and we just don't want to get into all that. So I've been working in the nonprofit sphere for a long time, and I know that it's not always easy to find a product as capable, but then sometimes the best of breed is actually the open source version. So don't get the idea that open source means second rate. I've never said that. I've just said in some categories that's true. It's frustrating sometimes, but not all the time, to have to use something that's kind of primitive. You know how a lot of companies now, they would like you to learn their product before you show up for a job interview, and so they'll put it out there for free, and you can hack on it in your free time, and then you're going to already have spared them the training costs when you show up. It's like, oh, I already know how to use X, Y, or Z because you released it open source a while back. And that's great for them. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm just saying I don't expect that just because all these tools are in principle free, that you can't be compensated for learning how to use them in the context of actually being a PhD candidate in one of the prototype communities of tomorrow that we're talking about, where we do test these technologies for real, and it's your job, your paid job, to tell us everything about the experience so that we, on the next iteration, can do better or address certain issues and so on. So as a pioneer who's documenting your experience using data science tools, we don't want to saddle you with a lot of debt in that regard either and make you buy your own private copy of every app that's out there, right? So we're trying to keep it affordable for the student as well as the faculty. Now, I don't have all the answers like I said, so make your own YouTubes and tell us how you would set up Asylum City if you had the enviable position as being on the planning team for that. And I'll look at your video and see maybe we can join our efforts. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.